We have one more session before the break. Can you make it? We can make it, right? Did you know that the MEF had an Enterprise Leadership Council? We do. They're coming out right now. So we have, to talk with some enterprise perspectives, we have Sunil Khandekar, who is the advisor for the Enterprise Leadership Council. He is the former CEO and founder of Nuage Networks. So I'm going to bring him out to introduce the gentlemen that are here to speak to you from the enterprise perspective. So come on out, Sunil.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the enterprise panel. As Aaron said, I'm leading the initiative for MEF, building the Enterprise Leadership Council. And I have senior executives from major enterprises that are the founding members of the ELC, or Enterprise Leadership Council. And very quickly, the idea behind Enterprise Leadership Council is twofold. One, we want to bring their essential user perspective to the MEF leadership table as well as in the working groups. And second, we want, with their participation and guidance, we want to develop a knowledge bank of case studies, best practices, white papers, tutorials, to help other enterprises reach in this bank and take some actionable ideas, insights to deliver their cloud network and security projects. So that's the idea. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. We have a lot to talk about, so why don't we quickly do the introductions, and then we'll get into the questions. So go ahead, Neal.
Sure. So I'm Neal Secher. I'm the head of network services at TD Bank. For us, that includes like three main product groups. What we do in the data centers regard to networks, what we do in the campus and retail environments, so SD-WAN, very relevant there, but also things like voice and some other things. And then what we do around network security. So our perimeters, our CDNs, WAFs, DNS, and some of the employee authentication bits. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm a little, as a native New Yorker, I'm a little uncomfortable so close to Cowboys home field, but I will get over it, considering my team's not very good right now. So thank you.
Or the last few years. Cowboy fan, sorry. Nine straight wins. Anyway, Raleigh, Mann, Senior Vice President of Technology for Williams-Sonoma. It's a very large retailer and family of brands here in North America. We do have some partners and spots in both Europe, Latin America, as well as the Asia-Pacific regions. Similarly, our enterprise is an amalgam of your typical corporate stuff, distribution center, supply chain, retail locations, and even a few airplane hangars. So very strange mix of, I consider it three different networks, three different profiles with at least 80 different B2B and business partners that all have a variety of different protocols coming in and out that make it fun to secure quite a bit. Very, very pleased to be here.
Excellent, thank you.
Nabil Bitar, I'm architecture at the office of the CTO at Bloomberg. Bloomberg, as many know, we deliver financial data, market data, and applications as well to our end customers. As a result of that, we build our own data centers, as well as we have global WAN, and we provide connectivity for our customers. That's on one end. On the other end, we're also a big enterprise, if you will, internally, whereby we connect our employees as well. The other dimension of that, we provide news service as well. So we deliver content as such to consumers in the marketplace.
My name is Snyder. I'm from UPMC. UPMC is an integrated healthcare provider based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have 40 hospitals, about 800 physician offices, 5,000 employed physicians, and an insurance division that has around 4.5 million members. So we have a unique, I guess, a unique view into healthcare and a unique network, because our network has to support academic research for different treatments. At the same time, it has to provide 24/7 availability for people to receive patient care. And those 4.5 million insurance members also need to access the care. So It gives us a very unique perspective.
Excellent, thank you. So let's start talking about NaaS. We are at the NaaS conference. You heard the keynote, fantastic keynote from everyone in the morning. So NaaS, to set it up, is really very similar in model in the idea that IaaS and SaaS services have been. They've been incredibly successful in the way enterprises have adopted them, because you leave the initial CapEx investment or the operations upgrades, the refresh cycles, all in the hands of the providers, and you avail them when you need them. The idea behind NaaS is the same. However, as we know, networking is a whole different beast. And there's several different endpoints to deal with, diversity of endpoints, locations, as well as the last mile. And so with that, and given that backdrop, what are your thoughts on NaaS? Are you in the middle of adopting it? Are you considering it? What are the benefits and challenges you see for NaaS? Neal?
Well, I'm glad that we had the lead in with to dispel the rumor that NaaS was a commercial model, because if you sit in my seat, you would think of NaaS as a commercial model. As I'm kind of talking with carriers and sort of seeing the pitches for next generation services, it does feel very commercial to me, and not necessarily an advancement of technology. So I really kind of like the way that this is being reframed to look at it. I think a lot of network services have to bring an aspect of automation to them. We do need more service agility. I'm excited about the sort of conversations here, but what we can't sort of lose sight of is, don't make it very easy for me to order a circuit in an automated way, but then I still have to wait 60 days for it to be delivered, right? So when we talk about, our retail locations, for instance, we deal with this all the time, where we can speed up certain aspects of the process, but when we get down to, hey, I can't reach that store, like I have to go to a separate LEC, and there's just millions of phone calls that are not very agile, and so that's one aspect of it. But I think you have to look at the full end-to-end chain of from I want a thing to how do I pay for that thing to how do I contract for that thing and how does it get delivered, for you to truly see the value, not just some of the bits in the middle.
Excellent. Raleigh?
Yeah, I want to second the whole perspective from an enterprise customer. I feel like it's mostly sold as a commercial product, almost like a platform as a service, right? Oh, you have a network need? I can fill it, is what so many providers like to tell me. And then you go to find out, well, not at that location or not with those needs, and certainly not in your timeline. I get that quite a bit. So we've been probing at the idea of seeing if there's a partner or a place to go to really get to a next generation architecture of our network, and I believe network as a service could play a huge role in that. But I'd love to see this body have more effect with a framework, so that I'm a little more comfortable knowing that I can have that global continuity of network services and control that I just don't see yet from anybody.
Got it. Nabil?
So I think I'd like to probably pull it back a little bit and say, what is NaaS, right? I mean, we've heard a few talks a bit earlier today that have attempted to define what NaaS from a given, if you will, if you want to put it that way. So I think as we all see NaaS as being composed of multiple components that could be consumed in a modular fashion, depending on the need of the customer and the business risks, if you will, or the business benefit that they could take. So, for example, it could be the whole gamut, as you kind of referred to a bit earlier, about outsourcing, if you will, the hardware, software, and lifecycle management of that. But in another way, I could look at as any network function or network capability that could be provided as a service. This is kind of the general part of it. And I think in that case, for example, bandwidth as a service could be a capability that could be provided. And it could be connectivity in general as a service could be provided. Any augmented capability on the top of that could be provided as a service. And the extreme of it, or the other side of that, the swing, is that to be able to provide a whole solution bundled together as a service as well. So things in between. There are things could be management as a service, network management as a service could be provided. And often the benefit of these things are try to offload, if you will, the burden of lifecycle management of any capability to a provider, right? So whether it's network management, lifecycle software management, hardware lifecycle management, and so forth. So really what you end up really consuming out of NaaS is really particular to the enterprise, if you want to put it that way, and what they see fits their business objective and their business needs.
Got it.
But automation, I think to go back to that, is a key to that as well. I mean, when we say bandwidth as a service,
Sure.
meaning to try to upscale bandwidth, dial down bandwidth, things along that line, observability, hopefully we'll get to touch on that a little bit, is another dimension of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Daniel?
So I'm probably the most skeptical. We've not even looked at NaaS because we like to adopt new technology, but we also like to have lots of control. And the thing that we're waiting the longest on is typically circuit delivery, not setting up the router. Like we have teams that have everything's already automated. So I'm not sure it fits, but I would still like to know more about NaaS in general. Like kind of like what Nabil said, what's the definition? Is it just to help you in your lifecycle management where you're not dealing with hardware anymore? Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that is appealing, but traditionally as a company, we like lots of control because our network has to be available all the time.
Got it.
We have a life safety issue, right?
Right.
Downtime is a problem.
Right. And so I take it that you all have SD-WAN deployed in some shape or form. And of course, NaaS or SD-WAN is intertwined with security. And that's where SASE has come about. And SASE is, of course, in addition to SD-WAN, it has secure gateway, a secure web gateway, next generation firewall, lots of things in it. What is your view of how you would want service providers to deliver SASE or the components of it for your needs? Because service providers have multiple vendors that they have in their portfolio, but not all vendors cover the gamut of all the solutions that SASE has. And so how would you like them to deliver a unified SASE solution to you? And also, how are you dealing with your existing tool set in integration? We can start maybe Daniel.
Which question do you want to stand first?
Anyone. Daniel, let's start with you.
Current state of healthcare, I don't think SASE is the right model, mainly because of how our apps are distributed. Some are in the cloud, but some are on-prem. And then whenever we have looked at SASE providers, it breaks our on-prem because we're going the whole way to the cloud to come back. And those apps have very, very strict latency requirements. So until we move more to the cloud and there's not so much on-prem, SASE, it breaks applications for us, actually.
Interesting. Nabil?
Yeah, so I think, so there's SASE, SSE, and so forth, that depending on where you want to provide that. I think there are two dimensions of this that you kind of phrased, is how you'd like that to be provided and what is to be provided. I think I do agree with Dan, and in a way you have to look first at the applicability when you say secured edge, where that edge is and for what, right? So if you have things on-prem, obviously there is nothing to be deployed because you're highly now dependent of what resides centralized. But there are also a lot of applications from enterprise point of view that often are going where people are interacting with things on the internet or where things are being consumed as SaaS, often deployed in the cloud. That's where that perimeter could become important actually, and wherever it resides, meaning you could deploy it on your own in the cloud, or you could leverage it as a service. And I think that goes back to the first notion about what an enterprise would consume is based on their business needs, if you will, and what they could consume, both maybe as cost, or total cost, or as capabilities that they have. So I think with the second dimension of what you asked, that There are a lot of capabilities required usually at that secure edge that need to be provided. It's often what we used to in the legacy world is a combination of set of products that end up to be interconnected. So that completeness of the picture becomes really important, how you provide it, number one. And then if you don't provide it natively, if you will, as a provider, how would you allow the stitching of other capabilities with it to provide the complete stack of what you need to provide. And that capability is needed, whether it's taken on by to bring in a third party to provide that capabilities and or to allow the stitching of that capability even if you deploy it yourself. The last dimension of that offloading stuff doesn't mean that you have complete opaqueness to what's going on. So it's very important that there is visibility into what's being done and that you could act on alerts, you could see what the events are happening and so forth. So that needs to be exposed as well to the end user. So.
Got it.
Look, enterprises are complex environments, right? I've been in the service provider space, I've been in high-speed compute, parallel computing for special effects, but the enterprise is very different and it's huge. And I have to say what Nabil was saying is, yeah, I'd love the flexibility that both SASE and NaaS can provide, but ultimately I'm responsible for stitching them together and making sure that my business operates.
Sure.
And it's extremely hard to do when the menu isn't as unlimited as it sounds. The flexibility that they provide typically isn't also written in the contract. If I want a service, heck, if I want bandwidth on demand for a bandwidth that contract doesn't call out, I can't just go turn the dial of that, right? Because now I'm going to pay off the charts rack rates for a in-between circuit, and that's ridiculous. And services on top of that, I find the very notion of that almost absurd.
So I think that SASE is a really very large bucket of stuff. And so I can say that sort of when we started our SASE journey, we were looking for a partner. And I think what we found was a lot of differentiation between products. And hey, this is great at secure web gateway, and this is great at ZTNA, and this is great at this. And so as we kind of approached it, we said, well, we can't like eat this elephant whole. We have to actually pick something, sort of get to that, and then reevaluate. The other sort of thing is that it's evolving really quickly. So we might talk to a vendor, and then by the time we come around to them on another aspect, their whole portfolio has changed or their whole maturity has changed around a product. So I think that the comments around flexibility are really really important. And I also think it's important to understand where you are on your cloud journey. So I think the comments also about how much SaaSes are you using? Like how important is that to the people that you're addressing with the technology? If you're not in SaaS yet, like holistically, if you haven't taken that cloud first kind of step, if everything's on-prem, it's sort of useless other than web browsing, which is pretty minor and frankly maybe not all that important. So anyway, I think just to maybe summarize, I think context is really key to understand where the customer is and what they're actually trying to do and when they're actually trying to do it in order to sort of, it's not a one-size-fit-all approach, particularly with SASE and really SD-WAN. One more comment, I think. When I looked at SD-WAN and SASE together, the SD-WAN guys were far more flexible in that we'll connect to whoever you need to connect to. It's very easy. It's a GRE tunnel. It's easy. It was really on the capabilities of the SASE side that bound us more to certain vendors other than others.
Got it. So, of course, tied to both NaaS or any type of network that you have, and SASE or security, is all the notion and the discussion around automation and observability. And AIOps is talking about leveraging basically AI, ML, and analytics to provide that automation for your IT operations as well as the observability. Talk to me about your thoughts. How much automation do you have currently? How much visibility do you have currently? what would you like to see going forward? Anybody can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been on quite a journey transforming our environment. We've done a lot leveraging, I know ServiceNow is a partner here today. We leverage that greatly for a lot of orchestration. Obviously, I get a lot of triggers from the network and devices that we own and control and provide services to. In my managed service network, I have observability challenges, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the equipment I can pull in data, and others I can't. It's not even a matter of paying extra for it. I just simply can't do it because of their platform that's installed is the lowest common denominator for all of their customers, and unfortunately, in this regard, I might be a little ahead of them, and that's been a problem. If you can't see it and measure it, you're not going to be able to do anything without that. So it's critical to have that observability and then being able to collect that data and use it over time, not just for trending, but also for modeling and understanding. Again, the enterprise is a complex place. I guarantee you, every one of us have the most crazy corner cases that many of you vendors and service providers have tripped over as well. It's crucial. But automating also requires simplifying that complexity, because otherwise your automation has to get more complex and handle harder and harder things. And then if it's going to hand off or transition to a human, or an engineer and operator, then they need to know where it failed, how it failed. And so now they've got to understand not just their domain, but then also the automation piece behind it, or they're going to get lost. And now our MTTR is going to skyrocket.
I think that the automation journey really starts with lifecycle. Modern systems are easier to automate. They're easier to have visibility and pull analytics out of them. That's just there. But the problem in the enterprise has always been that we sort of have very long-lived assets. So I have everything running on top of my network is everything from mainframes to containers. So everything is in there, and so. If you ever try to automate some really old tech, it's terrible. It's really awful, it's hard, it's clunky, and it doesn't work. So you really do need to start that journey there. I would say that where we have kind of made moves to SD-WAN, to software-defined data center, to cloud, frankly, we're accelerating much faster, and really it's a commitment to get rid of the old stuff that's there. And once you're there, on the analytics front, yeah, we need it for troubleshooting and operations, but our businesses love it too, because they want to know, hey, I'm paying for that circuit to that retail location. Who's consuming the bandwidth that's making me buy more, right? It is a very interesting and kind of creates a nice feedback loop with our businesses to let them know and give them actual, maybe I'll stop short of saying metering, but like we can actually show them things that we haven't been able to show them before. So there's very goodness when you get there, but it's a mountain.
So I think just to build on that, so I'll probably decouple a bit. So there is AI ops and there is observability and automations. And I think AI ops comes and sits on the top, if you want to put it that way, right? So I'll tackle observability. Obviously, I'll call it usual visibility overall, because that involves visibility as well as telemetry collection and alerts and so forth. So this is like the umbrella, if you will, that over kind of covers all that stuff. I think whether we have do it ourselves kind of things, or whether you have that as being provided as service, the ability to have visibility of what's there, meaning from inventory point of view, but also to collect telemetry that emits, if you will, from whatever assets you had deployed, network elements, security functions, whatever it is very important, because that's very important to the operations, whether you're trying to troubleshoot a problem or you're trying to determine who's abusing the network or who's consuming bandwidth, or try to predict where you need to be from bandwidth perspective, right? So that's very important. That runs across the board, whether you're running your own network or your network service, or you're consuming them as a service, right, from a third party. So what I see some of the lack that we get sometimes, obviously everybody has a journey, and trying to evolve in that space. But one of the things I think when we consume network as a service, often there is work on automating, although that's still a journey, but less on the visibility piece of it. So I think like having programmatically consumable, if you will, information about, or visibility information about what's going on is important. Whether it's a failure that could impact your service, whether it's a notification about a maintenance window, could be emergency, could be pre-planned. All these things need to be available, and we could go on and on in terms of events that you probably want to be notified on, including things that pertain to QoS or pertain to security as well. So somebody providing me connectivity is great, but I need to see how is my service being impacted on as a result of the events happening there. So that's one dimension. The other one is automation, right? So I think it's very important as well to automate services. I mean, we talked quite a bit on that, so I'm not gonna go on a laundry list on that. And again, everybody is targeting automating their infrastructure to provide a consistent way about how that infrastructure is being created. But also when you consume a service, you wanna automate that as well. I mean, we're used to it a large degree in the cloud today. We have some of that, I'm saying as industry, not necessarily as an enterprise in here. To consume it from a service provider as well. But we need to really make it that more uniform, both across the visibility piece, observability piece, as well as across the programmability of what we need, right? So it's not only about what you need, but also what you're getting. Because if you don't do that, if it's not being provided in the same way across providers, you have to do one-off integration with every one of them and so forth. And we know connectivity, for example, is not provided by a single provider globally, but rather you have to go to multiple of them, and you want to consume the service in a consistent way from across all of them. There are other distinguishing factors that comes in, but that APIs, a few set of APIs that allow you to do that are important. Now, when it comes to AI ops, I know we talked about analytics, AI ops, I look at a bit different. So having worked a bit in that domain as well in my lifetime, I think I look at the AI more as augmented intelligence, at least to start with. Really putting information that acts on signals, like what observability is giving you, to try to really correlate or make sense out of it, right? So really it's giving you augmented intelligence to the operations to act on those, rather than somebody trying to fish around for things, but rather is providing to you much easier. With the goal at the end is to really speed up the time to detect a problem when it happens from operations point of view, or to remediate the problem as a result of that, right? So what you do, what you relegate to AI ops to do to close the loop in automation, that's really up to the conflict level, because we know these systems usually are not 100% accurate. There is always fault. So that's why I look at more as augmented intelligence, whereby humans and operations people could still act on that, and then to the conflict level, they could relegate to a system to try to close the loop via automation. So that's how it ended up being conducted. So you could then, I think as you could really look at observability, you could look at automation as a component, and AI ops comes on the top and try to make sense out of the observability and try to use automation to close the loop. That's one way to look at it.
That's great. That's great. We'll talk more on this. This is a very hot topic, an important topic.
Sure.
In the afternoon when we have our meeting. Dan, did you want to add anything else?
I mean, from my perspective, we have almost everything automated. We have that lifecycle issue, but for AI ops, we started looking into that, but I think we're more interested in digital twinning also for changes. So it's great to find a problem later with the AI ops, but like before you even create the problem, having some type of digital twin of the network to be able to determine, hey, this is going to cause a problem. I think that's just as important to us as the AI ops.
Got it. So we have about 2 minutes left, but I want to ask an important question, and maybe we won't have everybody answer it. But when we talk about automation, when we talk about all these technologies that are highly automated or have the promise of automation, there's always an undercurrent of impact on jobs and roles. And as you automate these things, certain aspects, or when you get a managed service, certain aspects of the jobs or roles may not be required. How do you deal with that? And how does that impact, or does it impact your adoption of newer technologies? And so we'll just have maybe a couple of you answer that. Raleigh? Sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, I mean, maybe I didn't believe this for a while, but I certainly believe it now. I think that there's a we certainly are going through a evolution of how we actually operate. And so I described the things that we did as products, right? And so we're taking this product-centric approach to building things in the enterprise, in our enterprise. I think there's a ton of reskilling opportunity. Turning up and down switch ports is really not that interesting of a job, to be honest. And so there is a ton, if we take that out, to start refocusing on far more strategic things. And I actually think the culture is changing in a way that makes that happen that wasn't there 5 years ago.
Yeah, you have to attempt to bring people along, teach them new skills, give them the ability to develop and grow. Not everyone is willing to do that or wants to do that. But if you're a buggy whip manufacturer in the turn of the century, you probably either got into bikes or bicycles or eventually the horseless carriage, or you didn't. And so this is no different. My job's no different. It evolves, and I need to evolve with it. And so letting people know it's okay that you don't know how you'll end up where you're going, but let me describe what it looks like and help them get there is critical, because people are the only thing that makes the difference. All of us have the same access to technology. Our budgets vary. I've had unlimited budgets and very limited budgets, and yet it's really the people that you're doing it with and your partners that are going to make or break it.
Okay, maybe Nabil, very quickly.
Quick thing on this.
We're out of time.
So I think you could look at the automation as a way to serve the business, to deliver better, which helps obviously the business and the employees contributing better to the business, right? So I think it should be looked at as automation as an opportunity for people to deliver to the business better, allow them to do their job better. And I think it's very important that also as people move into that, they don't consider that to be a threat, but more of an opportunity, and to open up the opportunity for them to upskill their capabilities so that they could continue to have evolution in their careers as well. So it really depends how you look at it and how you position it. I think it's very important, basically, how to handle that. So.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. A big hand for the panel. Thank you very much.